Welcome everyone to Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists talk about gaming through a feminist lens. Today we are Alex, Matt and Jem, and we're going to talk about the cost of gaming crisis, which is, you'll probably gather, somewhat connected to the cost of living crisis. So yay, fun times for everyone. I guess what I'm going to kick off with is a question about the cost of living crisis and whether this has impacted our gaming habits, whether we've changed the way we game, the games we play, or just generally changed like our gaming habits based on how much we can afford to do nowadays with the cost of living affecting the United Kingdom. And I'll start, I think. I have thought a little bit about this, and I think I have definitely been considering my subscription costs, which we'll get onto a little later as well. But I'm still subscribed to my PlayStation Plus account. My partner's obviously cancelled his subscription because otherwise we'd just get the same twice over. But I have been thinking in recent months whether it's actually worth it, because time is a big factor, I think, for me as well, having the time to actually play all the extra games that they provide you with. And the fact that they've changed the format recently into like 3 different tiers of subscription, which kind of makes you get a raw deal if you get the cheapest option, or you feel like you've got the raw deal if you've now got the basic option, which is what everyone had before. But yeah, in terms of spending out money on games, definitely spending more time looking at sale prices rather than purchasing straight from the get-go. Although having said that, I have recently just bought Star Wars Jedi Survivor at full price, so slightly hypocritical there, I suppose. But yeah, we'll get on to the pressures, I guess, that we face when thinking about whether we should buy games straight away or wait for them as well. But yeah, I don't know how you guys are feeling.
I think it's at the moment, every purchase is something that I think about and weigh up, because it's always that, isn't it? Whatever they are, those things. And I think subscription something, because what we're subscribed to, what we actually make use of. I mean, the thing is, if you buy them, then you have the resale option, don't you? So you know, whereas when you've got a subscription set up, then you buy you down the line, you can't gift the game to somebody. You know, it's a whole different system, and I think for me, definitely sort of moments where I've been like, game, because you know, then maybe I'll sell it later. But the flip side is that because I'm so behind on everything, I'm not playing any current games anyway, so I'm not having to spend as many. I did consider the new Zelda game, and then swiftly changed my mind because of the price, and because I was like, but there's a lot of other games that I haven't played good and half the price. And I did recently buy some add-ons for my Sims, and again, but they're all on sale at the moment, so if you're a Sims fan, get on it. But yeah, so, and I was really pleased because I've been looking at it and umming and ahhing about it, really, like, you know, spent ages wondering, and then like 2 days later, I went on and the sale had just happened, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't buy it yesterday." It would have been twice
the
the
worst
price.
feeling.
So
It's the worst feeling when you buy something and it comes up in the sale like a day later. You're like, but why? I wish they had been. Yeah. Matt, how are you doing with the cost of living impacting on your gaming?
I think it's important for us to note that the current situation has only been branded a crisis because it's starting to impact the middle classes, whereas the working class and the poor have been squeezed. It's been a cost of living crisis for them forever, but this is a really good way for us to talk about the impact that the economy and politics has on the consumer market and on its consumers, which is us and games. It seems to be the same thing is happening everywhere. Everyone is looking for the bargain. Everyone is looking for the second hand. No one wants to buy brand new, but that can only get us so far. If everyone's in a position where they can only afford bargains, then eventually it's just going to bottom out, and I've been, it's so interesting. I've been all the stuff recently about how all the good things that we have in life that the media and education and propaganda tells us were gifted to us by our merciful ruling class, like the weekend and the 40-hour work week. But it was unions. It was unions that did it. And I don't know where to start with all the stuff I'm saying. Basically, yes, I'm looking for secondhand stuff as well, and it's rare stuff that I'll buy new things. I also bought the Jedi Survivor game, and sorry, Alex, it's the worst game I've ever played. It's diabolically awful. It upset me terribly.
There is quite a lot of bugs, to be fair. Yes,
it's not even the bugs; it's the things that they do deliberately. So that's another thing where I don't think it'd be nice for us to have a conversation about it, because I would just talk and talk.
Yeah. Well, no, but some people might enjoy that. You know,
I know.
There's an audience out there for it. But yeah, no, you've raised an interesting point, definitely, about the intersection of class, and we'll definitely be talking about that as well, because you can't not talk about money without talking about class. And I think that's a really important point. I say I spent £70 on Jedi. I didn't actually. I split it with my partner. So really, I've just spent £35.
Yeah.
But still,
that's another part that people rarely talk about, is how capitalism is the annihilation of the organic family unit, because it has become economically necessary. In order to live your life, you need to cohabitate with people. That's why the vast majority of people in their 20s live with their parents, because they can't afford to get a place of their own. And when you do live with the partner, you both have to work now.
Yeah.
And so that's just another area. The goal they want to. I've been just thinking about how, we talked about royalty and nobility recently, and how those things, and realised that they all see themselves, they're the ruling class. They are the ruling class. They rule over the peasants, and to them, we are all peasants. And they're just going through the next phases of pressing us further down into the mud. And that, more of that to come. More of that to come.
Indeed, yes. Do you feel like £70 or more is an acceptable, reasonable price to pay for a big flagship game on a console or a PC or even a Nintendo Switch.
I think it's bonkers. I think it's a huge amount of money. I mean,
it is.
70 quid is like,
it's more than, wow, how many tanks of petrol is
more
that?
than food, or it's like
a day's wage.
Yeah, I could fill up for twice for that. Just less than twice, depending on how much whether I fill up on a motorway or in the off a side road. But anyway, it's a huge amount of money. I mean, a board game, if you buy a board game, they cost quite a lot. I mean, they're usually around like a complex board game is usually around the £45-50 mark, but I get a lot of physical stuff with that. There's a lot more cost associated in my mind with board games, physical board games, because they have to be physically shipped, they have to be stored, they take it to be physically made. Whereas like the computer games, you pay 70 quid even if you load it off. It's I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the markup is on them, but and I know that a lot of time and effort and person power goes into these games. We want like the big, the properly voiced games with the really good graphics and the good storylines and all of that. We don't want to be, but like you say, you buy a game and it's full of bugs. And it's like you paid 70 quid for a bug. I mean, if you drove a car out of the forecourt and wheels fell off or it didn't turn right, you take it right back in again and demand a refund.
Exactly. Technically, I think you can. Well, I think you can't get a refund if you pre-order something. Is that right? I don't know. I'll have to check.
You can't get a refund from Argos.
You can't.
If it's opened.
No, and you can't get one from Steam after 24. I think they give you like 24 hours, or as long as you haven't played it, you can get a refund.
Tricky. No, it's definitely a good point to make, and I think a friend of mine actually once broke it down. She said, when this was back when games were around the £50 mark, and she was like, well, to me that doesn't sound too expensive, because if you think about the cost of a cinema ticket, especially like a 3D cinema ticket, sometimes being around £17, £18 mark for something you go and spend maybe 2.5 hours doing, and a game you could spend upwards of 50 hours. So in those terms, in terms of the time you put in, but again, you have to consider how good is the product that you're actually buying for that price. Are you actually going to spend that amount of time with it, or is it going to be broken and you only play like 2 hours, and in the end it's just not worth the money?
I think at the core of everything is the level of disposable income people have, right? So I think probably one of the best like measuring sticks for how stable and egalitarian and positive a society is the average level of income that the population have. Disposable income, because that means that if everyone's got enough money, all of their costs and expenses of everything are covered, and they have a large amount of disposable income that is always growing, because if you've got a job, you're working. And then that means if there's a £70 game, you can go, fuck it, I'll go and get this £70 game, and I might play it for 2 hours and go, oh, what a piece of shit, and trade it in quickly, but not in too quickly, because it's not a rush. And you could buy 3 of those games and try them up, and it doesn't matter, because all of your living expenses are covered, and it does. You've got money that you can literally dispose of, and the short-sighted, money-grabbing scum are just slathering at the disposable income of the middle class and going, "Look, we've sucked the poor and the working class dry, and now we want that." But another fascinating bit of propaganda and history. I looked at where the idea of the weekend started and the 40-hour work week. And Henry Ford, all the articles saying Henry Ford, the guy who created the Ford Motor Company, he's the one who created the weekend because he's an excellent leader, a brilliant CEO who loves his workers. Whereas what the truth is, he was a monster who employed a henchman who created his own private police force and used them to brutalize the Ford company workers. And one of the most famous bits of anti-union brutality ever was perpetrated upon the unions of the Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford said, "Leisure is an indispensable ingredient in a growing consumer market because working people need to have enough free time to find use for consumer products." So he didn't do it because he thought that people needed to live their lives and enjoy their lives. He did it because if they don't have free time to use my product, then what's the point? And what all of these companies should be doing is saying, look, if we get rid of all their disposable incomes, gaming is a luxury. And if it's between gaming and eating, the people are going to have to choose gaming. So what is best for every company is to lobby governments to not do tax cuts and not do deregulation, but to enact policies that make sure that everyone has enough disposable income so that when Matt buys his awful, dreadful piece of shit game from the guy, the director of the game was the director of the third God of War game.
Really?
He knows Stig Asmussen. He knows what he's doing. And so when Matt wastes his disposable income on it, it's not a big deal. And so I've got yes.
You mentioned gaming as a luxury there, Matt, which leads me very, very nicely onto my next question, which is, I guess, is there such a thing as a gaming snob? Which is to say, someone that views gaming as like a luxury product and something that they have the privilege of affording, and thinking of anyone who can't afford to game as somehow lesser or, beneath them in some way. I guess is kind of where I was angling that question. But again, ties into social class as well. Jem, what are your thoughts?
My only gaming snobbery comes from the types of games that people play, not whether or not people can play games.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, no, I think I would sort of see it the other way. Actually, I think that it's the sort of cliche idea of a sort of I don't know, overweight, usually young man spends 24 hours a day gaming and eating pizza is the cliche idea of a gamer. So no, I don't think there is. Gaming is a luxury because it's a time sensitive thing, and you can only game if you have the time to game, and people who are busting a gut to survive don't have that luxury. And if they do, if they have the ability to do it, then it's, then more power to them. That we all need an escape from, the shitty world that we find ourselves in. So I think it's I don't really see it in those terms. I'm a bit, there are some games that I just think like, well, that does, but that's just personal preference at the end of the day. That's got nothing to do with class or ability. I mean, I think that your access to gaming is a lot more to do with age as well. It's because it's also about the choice, what you choose to spend your money on, and it's for me, computer for me, or I can buy something for my daughter, or I can buy something for the house. An allocated, then there are different things, and as a parent, there's a certain amount of responsibility to use that money sensibly, use that money wisely.
Definitely. Do you have anything to add to that question, Matt?
I agree that I'm proud of myself that I rarely talk. When I think about Xboxes, if I ever think about them, I'm able to soothe the vitriol now. I think I've evolved.
Yes.
Somewhat. But I think I agree with Jem that it's more like the people outside of gaming who look down on gamers and think, oh, it's a waste of time and money. There are those people who are it's just ignorant and it doesn't matter. They've got their things. Who cares? Doesn't impact anyone. But the problem comes in again with the ruling class. They think that anything that people who aren't the ruling class do that isn't work, who don't work at 110% and smile and say thank you, Mr. Bossman, for giving me the honor of generating wealth for you. Those are the people when they say, oh, they just need to budget better, said by someone with generational wealth who married a family who has nearly £1 billion to their name. That's where the damage comes in, because they're the ones that make the rules of society. And so what they think actually hurts us. And there is nothing that the peasants do that is not something that can just be chortled at and gone, oh, they just need to budget better, or wasting our money on that, which again comes back to the disposable income of it shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have to justify every single penny you spend. Everyone should have plenty enough money that they could just write off trying to do things that they care about and love or are interested in. And
I'm a big fan of what's it called? Is it the living wage or the
is it real living wage, or I don't know? Something like that.
Because the idea that we all get paid a base rate that's gives us a comfortable life, and then then it's up to you, isn't it, if you decide. And I think that's good, because I've known, like, in other countries where they have a really good social security setup, you might have a job that's seasonal or that is up and down, and so you do that job then, and then you sign on for a few months, and then you go back and you do the job, and and I think those kind of setups are much better than this sort of everybody for themselves thing that we've got in this country, you know, where well, it's not even that, is it? I mean, it's everybody for themselves, and if you can step on somebody else on the way, then yeah, you know, it's just, I mean, I saw by Martin from Martin's Money Tips, money that anyway, he's he does all this like financial advice. He shared a Instagram post with a link to a website that is that you can go on to see what your local food bank needs, because people are dropping stuff into the things at the supermarkets and they're getting too much of this and not enough of that, and so he said, oh, you know, go here, check what people need, and you know, then you can at least be donating the stuff that is helpful. And the response was horrendous. There were so many people saying, you know, like, oh, you know, people should just, well, yeah, just budget better. And I've seen people turning up in their cars and, you know, going to the food bank. And you think it's not a lot of effort to actually check out what is required to access a food bank. It's not just anyone can just turn up. You have to actually be, you know, given a ticket by your doctor or the local authority. This idea that, and what does it matter? Why do people have to get so angry about it? What does it matter if somebody, you know, I mean, I obviously it matters a lot. You know, it's very problematic that people are having to go to food banks. But I mean, within that set scenario, it doesn't Brian from down the road because, you know, I don't know, Tallulah goes to the food bank. It doesn't take anything away Brian unless he chooses to give. I just think that we're in an area where it's all about where we're starting for other human beings, where it's you know, things are difficult. Things are difficult because of Ukraine. Things are because of Russia, because of Putin, things are difficult. Let's be honest about who it is. Because of Putin, things are difficult. Because of Brexit, things are difficult. Because of the pandemic, things are difficult. And because of the complete commitment by our things are difficult. And things in this country are more difficult than they are elsewhere. And I don't understand why people see it as a sort of zero game, like, because give these other people something because they need it temporarily, maybe for their whole lives. You know, that it does, and I've always been should share if you have as much as you can, you know, and I've just gone right off topic.
It's all right. No, it's really important. No, because it all ties in, definitely. And on a serious note, I will say, obviously, the cost of living crisis is a very serious and very big thing, and it's impacting a lot of people in a very negative way. And if you are struggling and need support, there is support out there. I know, obviously, I work for Scope, so I'm just going to say Scope has lots of support available, disability, energy support. You can go there if you're struggling to pay bills and things like that. And Scope also has a list of free food bank places and Trussell Trust food banks as well, if anyone is thinking about that. We have just raised the topic of food banks as well. But yeah, there's plenty of support out there. So please reach out if you need to. And moving back into slightly
can I
less
add
serious
one
territory, unless you want to add one, Matt.
Just one last thing. Jen, you touched on the ultimate subscription service, which is socialism, which is everything that food banks do is something that should be done through taxes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People beyond a certain wage earning There are a reason wages are called incentives. They're not they're called on legal forms, they are incentives because they are the reason that you work. And wages cost money to the businesses, but hopelessness and starvation and desperation are completely free incentives for them to use. That's why they want people to be desperate, because then they will accept more work, less pay, worse conditions. Whereas with socialism, the people who make a certain amount of money pay in, and we get the free healthcare, we get housing for everyone, we get guaranteed food, we get guaranteed water, guaranteed electricity, guaranteed internet. You get the entire, not just, they want it all to be about survival. It's passive. Well, you can survive on just drinking out of a puddle than eating flowers off a tree. And that's
you probably wouldn't.
that's what Brian thinks. That's how they've been trained to think. And then for the people who, who else doesn't work and don't pay taxes? Children. So I can't remember who said this and shouted this in a particular way. We live in a society. So you've got to go, so we live in a society. Do you want to live in a society where you just go, oh, the people below me suck, and the people my life sucks pretty much as well, and it's getting harder? Or do you want to live in one where you go, yeah, we're all in this together, and if we set it up economically, then we can all have a nice life, which would be the point. But no.
Absolutely.
Socialism, the ultimate subscription service.
Indeed.